in.
Can we talk about it?
Oh my God, we have so much to talk about. And
And
it is?
Although this is unmasking day.
Yeah, and Desiree.
Hi,
And
Desiree.
Desiree. Yeah.
Nice to see you again.
Oh, this is everywhere that we've been from, I mean, this is like going back 20 years now, right? Right? Like we have, this is the original travel in England, and then you have like, this turns into that.
I'll ask you later.
The saddest moments that I've had in politics was when I felt like people did not see me.
Right.
Or they saw right through, they looked through me
Right.
to like the man standing behind me because I
Yes.
couldn't be parliamentary secretary. Hi, my name is Selena Caesar Chavan. Can you hear me now? In 2018, I did a speech in Parliament talking about my hair. I had it braided, talking about my dope braids, yes, because I wanted to get the word dope in the hand.
For young girls here in Canada and other parts of the world who are removed from school or shamed because of their hairstyle. Mr. Speaker, body shaming of any woman in any form from the top of her head to the soles of her feet is wrong. Irrespective of her hairstyle, the size of her thighs, the size of her hips, the size of her baby bump, the size of her breasts, or the size of her lips, what makes us different makes us unique and beautiful. So, Mr. Speaker, I will continue to rock these braids for 3 reasons. Number 1, because I'm sure you'll agree, they look pretty dope. Number 2, in solidarity with women who have been shamed based on their appearance. And number 3, and most importantly, in solidarity with young girls and women who look like me and those who don't. I want them to know that their braids, their dreads, their super curly afro puffs, their weaves, their hijabs, and their headscarves, and all other variety of hairstyles belong in schools, in the workplace, in the boardroom, and yes, even here on Parliament Hill. Thank you.
Right? Like, so I want to get all these words that you won't normally use, like
Right.
recorded into history forever, right? And so when you think about that, like when I did that speech, it went viral, yes, and people loved it. But immediately after, it was kind of like, why is she talking about her hair
Right.
in federal parliament? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Until you fast forward, 4 years, and the Crown Act has passed in the U.S. legislature, right? So the Crown Act says that you can't be discriminated against, which we are in classrooms, in boardrooms, in everywhere,
Right.
based on our hair. When you Google, what professional hair looks like, you see white women's hair.
Exactly.
When you Google unprofessional hair, you see braids, you see dreads, you see afros, you see styles
Right.
that are so important to us. So when we think about the Crown Act passing in the United States in 2022, what does that mean? So first of all, the United States has a long history of discriminating against Black women's hair. The 1700s Tiong laws, right? That said that we couldn't even show our hair. So of course we took these wonderful cloths and we covered them, right? But when you think about that, we often think that what happens in the United States, we're not as bad as the United States when
Right.
it comes to racism. We're not as bad as the United States when it comes to discrimination. But it also happens here. So while students were being removed from being at their graduation or their heads shaved off because they had dreads in the United States, here in Toronto, a young girl was being removed from her classroom because her hair was too poofy. Who is going to talk about that?
Right.
And people keep giving me the biggest microphone in the country. So if representation matters,
Right.
you got to have a representative who's going to speak to what matters.
Right.
Your point earlier when you said, if I've never had a bill collector call me before, then
Right.
how can that be my experience? So if that's something that we need to develop in Parliament, how do we bring the experience other than our bodies to these people so that they can start to, maybe we should all have political dinner parties.
Well, it's not just that, right? So you have those experiences, and stories are sticky. So stories do have the capacity to make people change how they behave. We've become desensitized to a lot of these issues because we've othered them, right? And we've othered the people that are impacted by those stories.
Yeah.
So empathy is not saying, oh, well, that has happened to them over there. That is sympathy. That's a different sort of expression of emotion.
Yes.
Empathy actually means when they dig up Indigenous children's bodies in mass graves because of residential schools, those are my children.
Right.
That's a different set of feeling. That's the feeling of having what Dr. Robert Livingston calls empathetic courage. Because to be anti-racist, to be anti-discriminatory, to be anti-sexist or homophobic or anything, you actually have to be in the process of constantly doing. If you're not in the process of doing, if you're not in the process of doing all the time,
Yes.
then you're in the process of speaking and you're feeling sympathy. That is something that's completely different and we don't need.
And would you say that that is kind of like what it's like in Parliament? Or not even the sympathy?
I don't even think we're there yet. That is a higher level again.
That is really sad.
Well, I'm not saying everybody. I just think that we really need to get beyond this understanding that, that's happening to them. That's happening to us. That is happening to me, right? And when we think from that perspective of, I know what that feels like, and this goes back to the earlier conversation about our pains and our hurts. I don't sympathize with people because I know what that pain feels like.
Yes.
I know it intimately. So I'm able to empathize with people who have been left behind and don't want to be left behind again.
Is true change possible?
True change is possible if we recognize that we are capable.
How are we going to dismantle the political landscape to get them to believe that the status quo needs to be broken open?
See, this is the problem now, y'all. We dependent on them.
Right. Like, why do we think that?
We do not need to depend on them.
Okay.
We need to get ourselves in numbers. We need to run in packs. We need to be there. We need to actually use our voices for something that is good, that's something that's going to build something, and only we know. So it's not going to be them for us by them.
Right.
It's for us by us. And it can't be by us if we're not there. And I say that with totally knowing that I left. But when you're there with a team that helps you build, it's different from a solo enterprise.
Yeah. So if you ever enter politics again, how would your game be different?
Oh, we running in packs. We running like wolves. We running like we are hungry.
So they can't push you out because I
Right.
feel like
But it's not just pushing us. So they may push one of us out, right? So Selena's the loud one. I go with LA. She's a little softer.
Oh no, no one in their right mind would believe that at all.
No, but see, when they beat me up, I could say, yo, I need to take a little break. I go down, I heal. Now
No.
you come in the front and
Yeah.
you form the protection, right? That is why the village has always been important to us as Black
Yes.
people.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the village. It is about making sure that we are protecting each other. You can't protect each other when you're there alone.
Yes, which leads me to my question or word called political bubble. What comes up for that?
Well, I think that for me is different because Ottawa's a political bubble, right?
Yes.
And people tend not to know what's happening in there unless you burst the bubble,
Right.
right? But when you burst the bubble, what happens then?
Yeah.
Right?
And we need to have people in place for when that happens.
When that
'Cause
happens,
it's
so
gonna
that people
happen.
understand what they need to do outside of that bubble. So
Yes.
that bubble stayed there and people are protected, politicians are protected because people are not usually politically engaged
Right.
until they have to go to the ballot box. So at the election, they become politically engaged and they vote and they think that that's all they need to do. That's why the bubble
Yes.
sustains itself. The bubble is the status quo. The bubble is the representation of what we actually need to burst, to dismantle, to break.
That's good. That right there.
It's in between the 4 years. It's in between the election cycle.
Yes. We need to empower the people to recognize the expectations.
The
that they
people
should
have
hold.
always been empowered. It's time that they recognize. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had kept my big mouth closed, settled politely into politics, and rode that wave all the way to a lifetime pension. Would I have minded people calling me the Honorable Selena Caesar Chauvin for the rest of my life? Absolutely not. Would I mind that I would have had to call myself dishonorable because I had not stayed true to myself? Absolutely. Can you hear us now?